How to configure Visual Studio Code debuggers for C++. Are you ready to debug your C++ programs using Visual Studio Code? Let's break down how to set everything up so you can catch those pesky bugs. First, you will need to locate a file called launch.json. This file is found inside the VS Code folder in your project workspace. It is essential for defining how the debugger will launch or attach to your C++ executable. To get started, open Visual Studio Code and navigate to the Run and Debug view. From there, you can create or open the launch.json file. The debugger environment you select will depend on your operating system and the tools you have installed. For instance, if you are using Linux, you will likely choose GDB. On macOS, you might opt for either LLDB or GDB. For Windows, you can use the Visual Studio Windows Debugger, or GDB through Cygwin or min.gw. Now, let's focus on the key fields you need to configure in launch.json. The first is program, which specifies the path to the compiled executable you want to debug. Make sure this is set correctly for both launch and attach configurations. Next, you have args, which is an array of command line arguments that you can pass to your program when it launches. Another important field is Cygwin, which stands for Current Working Directory. This is the directory where your program will run during debugging. You can also set environment variables using the environment field. If you are on Windows and using GDB from Cygwin or min.gw, you will need to specify the path to GDBX in the me-debugger path field. A typical example of a launch configuration for a C++ program looks like this. Name C++ launch. Type cppdbg. Request launch. Program workspace folder /a ow. Args arg1 arg2. Cygwin workspace folder. Environment name config value debug. This setup tells Visual Studio Code which executable to debug, what arguments to pass, and the context in which the program runs. To ensure that debugging works smoothly, you need to have a compatible C++ compiler and debugger installed on your system. For example, you can use GCC and GDB on Linux, Xcode tools on macOS, or min.gw on Windows. The debugger you use will depend on your operating system and configuration. You can set breakpoints in your C++ source code by clicking next to the line numbers or by adding function breakpoints through the Run view. Once everything is configured, you can start debugging from the Run and Debug panel. This will launch your program under the debugger, allowing you to step through your code, inspect variables, and diagnose issues effectively. For those looking for more control, you can customize launch.json with additional properties like stop@entry or logging. You can also specify different debugger paths if you want to switch between debuggers. To sum it up, configuring Visual Studio Code for C++ debugging involves installing a suitable C++ compiler and debugger, creating or editing launch.json to specify the executable path and debugger settings, setting breakpoints in your source code, and running the debugger from Visual Studio Code. This method integrates debugging directly into your development workflow, helping you identify and fix bugs efficiently.